Welcome to the Speaking Spirit Podcast. I am your host, Daisy Farrell, and I'm a psychic medium, healer, teacher, and artist based in the Hudson Valley, New York, and I am so glad that you are with me today. So this episode is going to be all about my very first official ghost hunt, and I'm so excited, so let's just dive right in. Okay, to just first give some background, I just want to discuss a couple things before I kind of go into my evening and everything that happened. So ghost hunting is something that I've always been passionate about and very, very interested in. If you had listened to the first two episodes, which is where I discuss my personal story, I'm pretty sure I do touch on that. When I was about 9 or 10, that's when I suddenly became obsessed with ghost hunting. And I literally would go on this website. I forget what it was called, but it was basically like a paranormal ghost hunting website that would just post like daily photos of ghosts, EVPs, personal stories, like all kinds of things, live feeds, videos. Like it was really extensive. And I would literally just scroll through it all day long. And I was fascinated by it. And I even bought an EMF detector when I was about 10, and I would pretend to have these ghost hunts with my friends, and I would like create these really elaborate paranormal stories and write them in books. So it was always something that I was really into. And there was also definitely a lot of paranormal experiences in my family that I would hear about, very young. So again, it was something I was always super into. And then of course, pretty young too. I can't remember exactly what age, but I started watching the show Ghost Hunters when I was really young, and I would watch it religiously. I was obsessed with it. And I did that for years, really. So I never officially did any kind of ghost hunt until now. And I think for a few reasons. One being, I didn't have the equipment, but also I think for me, I can definitely be kind of a chicken with certain things like that. For example, it's kind of funny because like I'm a psychic medium, but I do not like going to, those like Halloween haunted houses where people jump out and scare you. I can't do that. I can't do it. I don't know why. It's just something about it. I can't handle it. But however, I love horror movies and they don't bother me at all. So I'm kind of weird, right? But I guess the idea of paranormal, like ghost hunting like that, I kind of thought it might be similar to that feeling that I get when I go to fake haunted houses and stuff. So I just didn't know if I could like handle it, right? It wasn't that I don't trust spirit and that I'm afraid that something bad's going to happen to me. It's not that. But it was more just that if I could handle being in the dark and all this kind of stuff, right? So, and I'll explain kind of how I came to this conclusion going through this experience now, where I realized that I can do it. So that's really cool. And I'll explain that in a minute. But it's something that I've always been drawn to, something I've always been called to. And definitely, I want to say in the past year, it's something that's really come forward very clearly for me as something that I want to explore and something that I want to just, add to my work with spirit. So it's something that I've always considered and thought of. So I finally just started it. I finally got the ball rolling with that. And one of the ways that I actually started exploring this was actually going to some friends' homes in the area that were like really, really old homes just to feel out the property and what's going on there. So that was kind of my start to just work on sensing a property, sensing who may be connected to the property. Because this was just a new way of working for me, and it's really interesting to me too. It's something that I want to continue to explore. So when I started with that, it was really fun for me, and I think it just motivated me to keep going and just pursue this even further. So that's when I bought my first device, which was the REM pod, and I've shared that in my Instagram stories. It's basically an EMF detector, so electromagnetic field detector. So that's a ghost hunting tool. And that was the first thing that I purchased. And I was just playing around with that a little bit. But then I've also purchased another EMF detector, and then I got a voice recorder. So here's the thing. I really am so into demystifying the fear around the unknown and spiritual work, right? And so I wanted to challenge myself. Like, even if I thought maybe I'd be like a little free or whatever, I just want to go for it and see what I can experience, see what I can do here. And the thing is that I'm not totally inexperienced, right? Like, I'm very experienced when it comes to working with spirit and, seances, things like that. Those definitely have a similar vibe to ghost hunting in a way, because you're in the dark, you're doing different things. So I was ready to just go for it. I was researching places in the area that I could, do a ghost hunt. And I found the Shanley Hotel. Now, the Shanley Hotel is pretty well known. I would say it's probably the most promoted haunted place in the Hudson Valley, I want to say. They've been on paranormal research TV shows. And basically, they don't even operate as a regular hotel. All they do is book out evenings for you to do a ghost hunt, which is pretty cool. I mean, it's very unique, and the history of it is pretty extensive. The hotel was built in 1845, which is a long time ago, and it went through a ton of different owners. It burned down at one point. It was a brothel at one point. It was many, many different things and had lots of different types of guests, and a lot of people passed away in the building. There was a ton of stuff that took place there. And it's also located, just so you know, it's located in Napanoch, New York. So you arrive there around 7 o'clock, and then they give you kind of an orientation where they explain do's and don'ts of ghost hunting and kind of what the evening is going to look like. And then they show you a video of just the history of the place and also some evidence that they've caught over the years. And all of that's super interesting. And one thing I will explain is, for me, I have this, it's kind of like a calling card is one way you could call it that. But I do have this thing where when I go into buildings that have paranormal activity, or if I'm around a place that has just a lot of spirit, I will get a physical sensation at the base of my neck. I'll get like a tingly, tickly sensation there. And one thing that's fascinating about that is I don't always get it, and it doesn't mean that there's no activity there. So I can't quite tell you what causes it to happen and what causes it not to happen. But I did feel that sensation in this building. So that's just giving me an indication that there's something going on. There's something going on in there. And so we basically started the investigation where the two owners ran it for us and gave us a bunch of different equipment, told us what to do, and just facilitated a few different things. And we went to like all the hot spots, so all the different areas of the building that are known for the most activity. One of the first things that we did was, I know that this is called something very specific, and honestly, it's escaping me right now, but there's a very particular method where you'll have one investigator go in an area alone, and they will put sometimes a blindfold on and headphones on, noise-canceling headphones, and the headphones will be attached to a spirit box. So if you don't know what a spirit box is, that's essentially a device that will scan tons of different radio frequencies at a super quick pace. And the idea behind that is that spirit can manipulate that to kind of pull out and highlight specific phrases or words to communicate to you. I gotta be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of that device. I just think it's a little, kind of finicky, but I'm open to it. And so I was one of the volunteers that ended up doing that method because I wanted to push myself. I wanted to just see where I could push myself in experiencing a new way to work with spirit, to experience spirit. So they put me in this creepy closet that was candlelit, and I was facing a mirror. I honestly could not really look at myself in the mirror. It was a little too much for me, but my job was to listen to what I was hearing in the headphones, and if I got a clear word or phrase, I was supposed to yell it out. So that way the rest of the group could hear what I was saying. And the idea is that the group that's in the other room, they're asking questions to spirit that will hopefully then, I will then say something in response. And the idea is that I'm not hearing what they're asking. As I was doing that, I definitely felt a buildup of energy and a presence. And I did become aware of a man that was standing in the room with me. I saw him in my mind's eye. That's typically where I will see spirits. But I also felt him and saw where he was in the space with me. He was definitely dressed in an older, looking outfit. I don't really have the words for it. I can't explain what that was necessarily called. It was like a golfing hat, I think he was wearing. And he felt a little weird to me, but nothing bad. So I just definitely felt an intensity there of energy. So that was an interesting experience, but that was basically it. And then we did have a few things happen after that where the spirit box was picking up on some names several times of people that my husband has in spirit. And they were explaining that sometimes our loved ones will come through these devices as well, which I'm not surprised. Then there was another time we went into the basement, and I also, again, sat with the headphones and the blindfold on this time in kind of a really creepy corner in the basement with the lights off. And again, I didn't have anything crazy happen, but I did feel a presence to my right-hand side kind of pushing on me. Not in a bad way, but I just could feel that energy on that side. Then after working with the owners for, I think it was like 2 hours, they then allowed us to go on our own. And they gave us our own tools to work with, and we were just allowed to explore however we wanted. So that was when it got really fun for me. And I think we went to a lot of different areas, but the first area that we went to was the gentleman's quarters, which is known for a lot of activity. And we used what's called a mag light. I mean, it's really just a flashlight, right? And the idea is you unscrew the back of the flashlight just enough so that it's disconnected from the battery. And the idea is that spirit can tap the back of it to reconnect the battery to turn the light on. And then they can take it off to turn it off. And you can do this for them to respond to yes and no questions. So we put that on one of the beds in that room, and we ended up having a 22-minute conversation with a back and forth of this light going on and off in an intelligent way in response to tons of questions we were asking. So that was really cool. We were able to verify that it was a man that had lived there, and there seemed to be a name connection to William or something with a will. And there was a few other things that are escaping me, but we actually filmed the entire thing. So that was really cool. I've never experienced that before. And that was really, really fun. So then we went up to the third floor, which is kind of unfinished and creepy looking. And we went to this one room that's apparently known to be haunted by a man. And so we went in there and we recorded some stuff and sat around. We didn't experience anything at the time. And this is the moment and place where I thought I caught a potential EVP. Now, an EVP is electronic voice phenomena. And that's essentially where you'll have a recorder of some type. And you don't hear anything at the time of recording. But then upon review afterwards, after your investigation, you'll hear a voice on there that you did not hear at the time of recording. And essentially the idea is that this is a spirit voice, right? I think they're fascinating and so cool. Now, here's the thing. and that's the thing that's so good is I feel like I learned so much from this first experience, and I'm just going to learn more as I continue to do these. But I'm going to play it for you just so you can hear it. But here's the thing. We were definitely very excited when we were there, and we were very talkative. And I don't feel like we were fully aware of, being really intentional when you're recording EVPs to be completely silent, give space in between your questions to allow spirit to respond, and just being very aware of noise pollution. Because essentially, I can't tell you for sure if this is an EVP or not. That's basically my conclusion here. I'm not going to sit here and say, yes, this is definitely a true, genuine EVP. I cannot say that with full confidence just because I'm not comfortable with, the level of potential noise pollution that we had at that time. And I don't think it was done in a controlled enough way, if that makes sense. I will play it for you right now so you can just hear it. So if you listen, it sounds like someone saying, "This shit's not on." So I'm pretty sure that could have been my husband, but it's still kind of hard to tell. And yeah, so that's kind of the conclusion there, right? But I wanted to share it just because I think it's a good learning experience and thing to just share with you guys. Because next time in my next investigation, I'm going to be much more intentional about the environment in which I'm doing an EVP and being really mindful of when I'm asking questions and giving space, all of that. I think another thing to keep in mind too is that I think it's really fun that they do these ghost hunts, with a group at the Shanley. However, you're with multiple people that are just kind of doing their own thing and you have no idea where they are. Like no one's in communication with each other, right? So it's also possible that somebody pops in and says something and your recorder picks up on it because it's not controlled, right? And I think that's super important when it comes to getting really, really valid evidence. But despite that, it was still a fun thing, right? And like I said, I think taught me a lot going forward. And so then after that, I was with my friend in the main area, which is basically the kitchen. And we did get some more responses through the mag light again that were intelligent. So overall, that seemed to be the most popular device for spirit to work with, which again, I think is fascinating because we had like all kinds of devices, right? But that was the only one that they seemed to want to work with. So I don't know if that means that it's easier for them to manipulate, maybe, right? I just think that's all really fascinating. Another tool that we got to play with was actually dowsing rods, which I have not worked with before, but we got some pretty interesting responses with those as well. If you don't know what those are, you could just look them up. That's probably the easiest. It's kind of hard to explain over audio, but they're essentially these copper rods that are bent into like a 90-degree angle, and you hold them in your hands, and they essentially will cross or swing outward and in response to different questions. It's kind of similar to the idea of a pendulum, but just a different modality. Overall, it was a really fun night. And I think my biggest takeaway, honestly, was that I absolutely can do this. And I really didn't feel any fear at all. Because again, it just felt similar to a lot of things that I've already done. And that's something that I'm so passionate about, is demystifying the fear here. Because unfortunately, I think there's so many paranormal TV shows, movies, there's so much out there that fosters this idea of intense fear around the paranormal. And it drives me crazy, to be honest. This is just my personal belief, and people are going to disagree with it, and it's totally okay. But my feeling when it comes to paranormal activity, right? I do not believe that people that, let's say, get murdered somewhere or something like that, that they are forever trapped there, re-experiencing what happened to them, things like that, or that there's people and they have no idea that they died and they need a human to help them cross over. One of the biggest things to me is that I trust the process of birth. And think of it this way. In birth, even if there's complications or whatever, right, you eventually get over to the other side, right? And to me, I think death is the same thing. I think it's natural. And I almost think it's kind of this ego-y type thing where humans think that they need to step in to help a spirit cross over. I just don't agree with that at all. And my other thing is that when it comes to hauntings, I believe that a lot of it is what they would call residual, which is really, it's just an imprint, it's a memory, right? It's something that's just been kind of held in that space because of time and something repeating or something with maybe a level of intensity that took place there, I think can totally just leave almost like a stain, right? And it can repeat and show up, and some people see that. So I think that's the most common. And then I think intelligent hauntings and things where you get activity that is very obviously not some type of repetitive, thing that's not responding to you, I really feel that that's not that there's a person there that's stuck there, right? I really don't believe in that. I really think that it's just somebody that really enjoyed their time there and maybe had, a significant part of their life connected to that location. So they just like hanging out and visiting. That's really my true opinion on that. And the other thing is that I think a lot of this fear around the paranormal tends to be from interpretation. And also, I think people don't realize how powerful their own energy is, right? If we have some type of paranormal experience and then we decide that it's evil or scary or bad, we're going to add to that feeling. We're going to add to that energy. And it's going to make it scary, right? So I think so much of it is the way that we interpret these experiences. And I really challenge people to just take a step back when this stuff happens, and instead of, immediately respond with fear, to maybe just sit with it and think, okay, who's here? What are you trying to tell me? And see what type of response you get. Because I think it's the fact that it's unknown that we immediately react with fear. I really think that paranormal investigation is so fun and something that it's just like a different dimension, a different modality for me to experience spirit, to just see what else they can do, what they're capable of. I think it's beautiful and amazing. So I'm really excited to continue. I already have other locations lined up that I'm going to start exploring. And with my new found, learning here, I'm going to be more controlled in the EVP sessions that I have and different things like that. And I'm just really curious and excited to continue exploring all of this. So I will continue to do some podcast episodes as I do these paranormal investigations and have experiences. And I am so excited to share this journey with you as I continue exploring all of this. So that's really pretty much it. I just wanted to share this. And hey, if you're interested in checking out the Shanley, you totally can. If you just look up the Haunted Shanley Hotel, you can find their website. It's definitely fun if you've never done this before and you're kind of curious. I recommend it for a fun thing. And I am going to, like I said, keep you posted as I continue. And I would love to hear also if you can comment or message me, whatever you want to do. I would love to hear if you've ever had some paranormal experiences and how that impacted you or how you responded to it. I would love to hear that. It's just something I'm fascinated by. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. So I will see you super soon. See you next time.